really don't care what happens to her at all. I don't care. Like, everybody they tiptoe around with this social media. But what y'all don't get is that it be real consequence for y'all little flexes, y'all quick flexes for $300 that you need. It be consequences.
The courtroom was supposed to be a place of order, of quiet rules and calm decisions. But on this day, it transformed into something heartbreaking. As the hearing continued, tension was already thick in the air. Teyana Taylor and Aman Shumpert sat across from one another, flanked by their legal teams, eyes locked on the judge. Then came the moment no one saw coming. A voice, small, innocent, and trembling, cut through the noise of legal language and grown-up frustration. Their daughter, allowed to speak privately to the judge, asked a single question that would ripple through everyone in the room. Why Aman only? Those 3 words stopped the courtroom cold. The judge's pen froze mid-sentence. Teyana covered her mouth. Iman blinked, stunned. It wasn't a statement. It wasn't an accusation. It was just a question from a child trying to understand why the people she loved most couldn't seem to love each other enough to stop fighting. And suddenly, this wasn't a custody case anymore. It was a crisis of love, trust, and heartbreak laid bare. Once upon a time, Teyana and Aman were one of Hollywood's dream couples. Red carpets, sweet family moments, matching outfits. It all seemed like a fairy tale. But now, they found themselves battling not over headlines or rumors, but for custody of their child. The courtroom had become their battlefield. Both had arrived with tired eyes and stiff postures, lawyers flipping folders and whispering strategies. But it was clear this wasn't going to be just another procedural update. Something was brewing. The energy in the room was heavy. Reporters waited outside for news, but what happened inside wasn't just newsworthy, it was heartbreaking. Because while both parents were focused on building arguments, no one realized their daughter was watching, listening, and finally ready to speak. And when she did, she cracked open something no lawyer could fix. During a closed-door session that allowed the child to speak directly to the judge without her parents in the room, the unexpected happened. Insiders say she sat still at first, nervous, glancing between the judge and a stuffed toy she held tightly in her hands. Then, in the quietest voice, she asked, "Why does Daddy get everything? Why Aman only?" That one question, so innocent, so pure, hung in the air like smoke. The room reportedly fell into silence. Even the judge, who had maintained a calm demeanor through weeks of bitter legal back and forth, appeared visibly shaken. It wasn't what she said. It was what it meant. That a child felt the imbalance. That she noticed. That despite all the legal papers and court transcripts, the truth had come from the person it all was supposed to be about. And no one was ready for that truth. What followed next was a judge no longer willing to play referee. According to courtroom witnesses, the judge addressed both Teyana and Aman with a level of seriousness that caught everyone off guard. "This is no longer about you," he said. "It's about her. And she's hurting." He reprimanded both parents, making it clear that their choices, both in and out of court, had left their child feeling abandoned and confused. "She feels like she's not enough for both of you. That is not acceptable." Teyana reportedly wiped away tears as she looked down at her hands. Iman sat still, jaw tight, refusing to make eye contact. The judge's tone was raw and direct. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about repairing what had already been broken. That moment shook the entire foundation of Aman's case. For weeks, he had been pushing hard for sole custody, presenting himself as the more stable and reliable parent. His legal team had worked tirelessly to paint him as the secure choice. But that one question from their daughter changed everything. "Stability doesn't mean exclusivity," the judge said, reminding everyone that a safe home isn't a one-person job. Iman's lawyers tried to pivot, downplaying the emotional impact, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. The image of Aman as the emotionally grounded parent had cracked, and no amount of legal polish could fix what his daughter's words had revealed. In response to the judge's reprimand, Teyana's attorney stepped forward with a statement that turned the room on its head. They claimed that Aman had been actively preventing Teyana from seeing her child, blocking her visits, avoiding communication, even refusing to open the gate to his home when she came by. "She stood outside for over an hour," the attorney said, voice rising, "and no one answered. He's not just keeping the child, he's trying to erase her." A collective gasp echoed in the courtroom. Teyana didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. Iman immediately shook his head, denying the accusations, but the court felt the shift. The narrative had turned again, and it wasn't in his favor. Outside of the courtroom, the story took on a life of its own. A short, blurry video appeared online. A child's voice, soft and heartbreakingly clear, saying, "I love mommy and daddy. Why can't they just stop fighting?" The internet exploded. Though the identity wasn't confirmed, fans believed it was Teyana and Aman's daughter, and that was enough. The clip was shared thousands of times across TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. People weren't just commenting, they were begging. "Please, for the child's sake, end this war." Fans tagged both parents, pleading for peace. What had once been a custody battle between two celebrities had become something else entirely, an emotional public plea for compassion and clarity. As the media storm surrounding the custody battle intensified, it was only a matter of time before celebrities began to publicly share their thoughts. As expected, Taraji P. Henson broke the silence first with a pointed tweet, "This baby didn't ask for this." Her words echoed across timelines and news feeds, triggering a wave of emotional responses. Others in the entertainment industry soon followed suit, many of them offering similar sentiments. One prominent figure wrote, "The court process is already brutal. This poor child is stuck in the middle of adult wounds." For once, the conversation seemed to shift. It was no longer dominated by the divide between those who supported Teyana and those who stood behind Iman. The focus had moved to the one person caught in the crossfire, an innocent child. The shift in tone was striking. Fans who had once argued bitterly online about who was to blame suddenly found themselves in agreement. Regardless of who was winning, it was painfully obvious who was losing. The child had become the emotional center of the narrative, and her pain, though unseen, felt palpable to millions watching from afar. The drama, once consumed like entertainment, now felt too real, too tragic. It wasn't just a courtroom battle anymore. It had become a symbol of how adult conflicts can engulf and scar the lives of children. The noise, the finger-pointing, the media spectacle, it all seemed to fade into the background, replaced by a quiet but heavy concern for the child's emotional well-being. That evening, as the day's headlines swirled online and speculation deepened, Teyana took to Instagram to break her own silence. She didn't use images, music, or flashy effects. Just a plain black screen with white text that read, "Fighting for love. Fighting for peace. Fighting for her." The post was immediate, raw, and open to interpretation. Some saw it as a deeply personal cry, a vulnerable window into a mother's heartbreak. Others questioned the timing and intention. Was it a genuine moment of pain, or another carefully crafted message aimed at shifting public perception? The responses came quickly. Thousands of fans replied, commented, and reposted. One follower wrote, "We see you. We feel your pain." Another responded, "Then stop making it about you. This is about your daughter." The divide was clear. Some were moved, others were skeptical. The post sparked fresh debate, not just about the case, but about how much of this battle should be public at all. Every word shared, every post published, was now part of the larger story. And that story had become as much about image management as it was about legal outcomes. The line between sincerity and strategy had blurred, and no one was quite sure what to believe anymore. Just as the internet was beginning to settle into another cycle of speculation, Iman broke his own silence. For weeks, he had remained quiet, letting his legal team and public demeanor speak for him. But now, he tweeted a short, carefully worded message. "I will never stop protecting my child, no matter what narrative is out there." The tweet was short, but its impact was immediate. Some read it as a direct response to Teyana's Instagram story. Others saw it as a subtle but clear attempt to reaffirm his identity as a father who was calm, grounded, and focused on his daughter's best interests. The ambiguity of Aman's tone only deepened the conversation. He wasn't angry, and he wasn't defensive. His words carried a kind of quiet strength that many found reassuring, but others found manipulative. Was he genuinely trying to rise above the noise, or was he trying to control the narrative by appearing noble? The public couldn't decide. Theories began circulating across social platforms. One user asked, "Is this the real him, or just a team-approved version of him?" Another replied, "At least he's not yelling. That counts for something." Every move, every message was now being dissected for meaning, intent, and emotional authenticity. What had once been a straightforward legal conflict between two parents had evolved into something far more complex, a public battle over storytelling, sympathy, and perception. And in this battle, truth and performance were nearly indistinguishable. Each parent seemed to be speaking in carefully crafted soundbites rather than direct conversations. There were no interviews, no sit-downs, no joint statements, just vague quotes and quiet digs, filtered through the lenses of Instagram stories and tweets. Meanwhile, the child at the heart of it all remained unseen, unheard, but never far from the minds of the public. Her name wasn't trending, her face wasn't in the headlines, but her presence loomed over every post, every comment, every piece of content. The situation, once sensational, now felt solemn. Fans weren't cheering or choosing sides as loudly anymore. Instead, there was a collective pause, a realization that behind all the glitz, all the celebrity, there was a child waking up every day to a world that now saw her family as entertainment. And so, the spotlight stayed on. But it was no longer illuminating just the drama. It was shining harshly on the cost of that drama, the way fame distorts intimacy, and how personal pain gets turned into public debate. It was a reminder that no matter how glamorous or composed someone might appear online, the truth is often far more fragile. In the end, it wasn't about who spoke louder or who cried harder. It was about who the world chose to believe, and whether, in all the noise, anyone was still truly listening to the quiet needs of a child. One courtroom hearing. One innocent question. Why Aman only? And everything changed. That child's voice shattered months of carefully crafted legal narratives. It exposed the cracks in both parents' strategies and reminded everyone what was truly at stake. The judge made it clear, this isn't about power or pride. It's about a little girl who just wants peace. Now, as the case moves forward, the pressure is higher than ever. Will Teyana and Iman finally put their differences aside? Or is more heartbreak waiting just around the corner? Hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Because if this hearing taught us anything, it's that the next twist might not come from the parents, it might come from the one voice that matters most.